Hey guys, what is up? Public here, back with a quick video for patch 11.1.7. By the time you're watching this, the patch should be live. And today there's really not much to talk about. 11.1.7 doesn't have any real class or spec changes at all to speak of, so Shadow Priest is still going to play the same. The reason why I'm making this video is because there is a new belt item coming, very similar to D.I.S.C circlet that we got a few patches ago, that goes on our waist slot that has similar kind of effects. So this is giving us a little bit of a power bump to kind of end off this patch. So in this video, we're going to talk about what the belt is, how to get it, and what the best powers are for it in this patch for your Shadow Priest. Okay, let's dive in. Okay, so starting with this patch, there are new overcharged delves that are coming out. Now these are kind of on a rotation, so every day, 2 different delves will be overcharged and get this extra affix. It'll be just a little bit harder, nothing too crazy, especially if you've already been playing this patch. And by doing these overcharged delves, you'll get a new currency, and eventually you'll actually unlock the D.I.S.C belt, the durable information storage container. And then every delve gives you a unique power, so you kind of, if you want all the powers, you have to do each delve once. For I think there's a total of 8 powers or something like that. Now, some of them, kind of like D.I.S.C circlet, are damage powers or tank powers or healing powers. So I'm really only concerning about the damage ones. And eventually, you can actually swap them out quite easily. So unlike D.I.S.C circlet, the ring, these are a lot easier to unlock, and they're a lot easier to swap out as well. The belt actually gives you a UI where you can kind of easily swap things out just by right-clicking, just like a socket or anything else like that. It gives you this UI where you can select, hey, I want this power. You can actually min-max this even further. So if you're out of combat, you can swap this pretty freely. So currently, even in Mythic Plus, you could have like the single target power for bosses and the AoE one for trash if you want. That optimization is totally up to you as long as you drop combat. I suspect that might get swapped around, but that is currently something that you can do, or put on the shield for like a hard pack or something else like that. So yeah, lots of good powers. As far as like, the defensive ones are kind of okay. There's a healing one that could proc Twist of Fate. Use those if you'd like. I think for the most part, folks are going to want to use this as a damage belt, primarily because the belt itself does come at a cost of secondary stats. So while you do get this extra proc that you can use on the belt, and it still has main stat and stamina on it, you're losing whatever secondary stats that you would normally have on your belt with it. It does also still have a socket, so you still get those secondary stats, but otherwise you are, losing damage if you decide to add the shield power or the healing power. So keep that in mind if that's worth it for you. Now, when it comes to, optimizing your Shadow Priest, we have a couple things to kind of go through here. So when you first acquire the belt, it's going to come at 694 item level. So it's already going to be a little above what your existing belt is. Once you get the kind of most optimal powers, you'll immediately get like a 2% gain just from that. And then eventually over the course of a couple weeks, you'll be able to upgrade it all the way to item level 701. So at current tuning, it's likely that this belt will be used at the start of Season 3. I'm not sure quite how long. Likely replaced by the time we get to Mythic, but it'll be close. Obviously, this is all kind of pending tuning. Of course, we saw plenty of that with D.I.S.C circlet, and we might continue to see that with the belt. So that's how things are looking at this moment for Shadow. Now, for us at the moment, there are 2 powers that are pretty relevant for us. And this seems to be pretty consistent across all specs in the game, which is why I wouldn't rule out that they might still do some more balance changes. But at the moment, we have Charged Bolts, which is our kind of preferred single target guy. This is just a proc. It's just a proc that deals damage. So there's that. It's kind of, whatever for us, because we don't really stack a whole lot of crit or verse, so it's just kind of doing its base thing. So there it is. Single target proc is our best for single target. Who would have guessed? And then for AoE, we do kind of have the option of moving to Electric Current, which is a mastery based proc. This for us just scales better as soon as you start adding targets. So you can kind of think of it as Charged Bolts is the kind of de facto pick for rating. Electric Current will be the de facto pick inside of Mythic Plus. If they don't fix the swapping out of combat thing in Mythic Plus, you could even say, hey, on bosses, go Charged Bolts, and then for trash, go to Electric Current. If they do end up making a swap, you could make an argument that, hey, just stay Electric Current the whole time. Or, if you really care about your boss damage, stay Charged Bolts the entire time. I think both are perfectly viable. If we kind of go through what this looks like, I know this chart isn't the easiest to read. Hopefully, I'll get this fixed up in the coming days. But you see Charged Bolts is more than double ahead of electric current on single target. So very, very strong here. Electric current, you know, it's okay. And then this is just for Void Weaver. And then if we swap over to like more dungeon sims, this is where it gets a little complicated. It really depends on how much of the dungeon you're trying to optimize for, which is single target. So you can see for Void Weaver, Charge Bolts is still doing very well. Archon still has it there too. The reason why Electric Current starts to come into play is when we start getting into more like AoE optimized stuff, Electric Current just does much better. So this is an 8 target, 1 minute little slice, and you see Electric Current's doing much better here. So it really depends on, are you trying to optimize for bosses or trash? In terms of, well, which one is better for overall damage, again, assuming they break it so you can't swap out of combat and Mythic Plus, it really kind of depends on what percent of that dungeon you're spent on bosses. The higher the key goes, if bosses are taking longer and longer, you can make that argument. I think for you as the player, I would say, what part of the dungeon is hardest for you? Are the bosses challenging, or are you trying to make up time on trash, right? I think both are perfectly viable choices to pick. So take that for what it's worth. I don't particularly think there's anything super, enticing with some of these kind of more defensive ones. So there is like an energy shield or a static charge. There's a couple of these guys that do versatility or kind of more defensive things. At the moment, I don't see a whole lot of value in that, but it's always possible it makes sense for you if that's kind of how you want to play. But again, keep in mind, you're losing secondary stats to equip this belt, so it is a little bit of a caveat there. So really with patch 11.17, that's all we really have to talk about here in this video. If you have any questions about the belt, feel free to make a comment down below. The Icy Veins guide and all these kind of resources will be linked in the description as well. Hopefully this video has been helpful, and we'll catch you next time.